Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today on this webinar. Really excited to dive into a very involved but very important topic on growing your business through prospecting. This is new AUM for a new year, the top 7 prospecting strategies for 2024. My name is Matthew Bailey. I am the head writer and director of client content here at Bill Good Marketing. And I'm thrilled to be joined again by my very good friend, Stephanie Peterson. Hi, Steph. How are you doing?
Hi, Matt. Thanks so much for having me. I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to this topic.
And just really quick, tell people what it is that you do here at Bill Good Marketing.
So, my role, I'm the head of growth. I've been involved with BGM since about 2006, coaching, consulting. Currently, my job is to help advisors find the right support services to reach their goals. And in that, the right prospecting strategies always comes up. So, I'm looking forward to this topic. I think it'll be a great one.
Absolutely. So, if you're on this webinar today, I'm going to assume that you're joining us for one of a few reasons. Again, the topic today is prospecting. So, I'm going to guess that many of you who are on here have either not done much prospecting before and you want to get started, or you haven't done any for a long time. And either way, you're not quite sure where to start. Or maybe you've been doing prospecting and it just hasn't been working. You've been putting a ton of time, ton of money into it, and it's not yielding results. Or maybe you haven't felt the need or the desire to do much prospecting before, but you're willing to consider it if you see or learn something that makes sense to you or is appealing to you. Either way, we're going to be talking today about the strategies and channels that the top advisors on the Bill Good Marketing System are using. They use in 2023 and are using in 2024 to grow their business by leaps and bounds. Now, before we dive into the topic further, just a quick note of housekeeping. We love questions on these webinars. So if at any point you have a question or a comment, feel free to leave it in the chat box. Stephanie's monitoring that, and we'd love to answer your questions as best we can. And then for those of you who are new to these webinars, one of the things that we always do is we like to give you a special thank you for giving us an hour of your time today. And we do that through what we call a goodie bag. At the end of the webinar, we're going to give you a link to a report card. Only takes about 60 seconds to fill out, just to let us know how we did, what you took from this, what we can do better in the future. And in response, as our way of saying thanks for that, we're going to give you a very special resource. This is a new guidebook that has just come out literally today. It's called Prospecting the Good Way. It is the largest guidebook, the most comprehensive guidebook that we have ever come out with, and it goes into a lot more detail than we can cover today on the topic of prospecting and the various strategies available to you, as well as some other prospecting related topics. I highly recommend getting this guidebook. We put a lot of time and effort into delivering it for you, and it contains so much good information, especially if there's things from this webinar you want to learn more about. You're going to find it in the guidebook. So definitely stick around to the end, fill out that report card, and get this guidebook for you to use. It's going to be well worth it. I'm excited for you to read it. Really quick before we dive in any further, though, I'd love for Steph to give a quick little breakdown for those of you who are new to Bill Good Marketing about what it is that we do, because this may be your first time interacting with us. So, Steph, talk a little bit, if you would, about Bill Good Marketing and what it is that we do for financial advisors.
Absolutely. So, for those of you who haven't heard of us, we've been around for over 46 years. Bill started in this industry in the 70s and basically has documented all the best practices in this industry, from marketing, prospecting, client retention, client engagement, practice management, time management. We have all those strategies documented and codified into a system that you can implement to systematize your business. We can help you put all of the solutions in place that you need, or provide marketing content, coaching, training as needed. But ultimately, all of this is in the objective of helping you double your production or work half as much. And advisors who work with us, usually we're targeting a double of gross revenue and usually assets under management as well within about 2 to 4 years of starting. Now, how aggressively you want to go after it is something we'd always take into consideration. So, if you are interested in a lot of growth, really rapid, expansive growth for your business, after we will have a survey, as Matt mentioned, and you can indicate that you'd like to have a growth potential analysis, and I'd be happy to help you map out how we can help you hit your double.
Love that. Thanks, Steph. And yeah, on today's webinar, we're going to be talking about some of the strategies that will help you grow. Some of them are for more aggressive growth, some are for more gradual growth, and we're going to be covering it all. So, with that said, here's what we're going to talk about today. First off, we're going to break down what exactly prospecting is and what it isn't, because there tends to be some confusion among some financial advisors who have never really done prospecting before about what actually prospecting is. And that's important to know so you know that you are allocating your time, your manpower, your energy, and your capital to the right activities that will help you actively grow. Then we're going to talk about the two main styles of prospecting. All the different strategies we're going to talk about today fall under one of these two umbrellas, and we're going to break that down. Then we'll get into the 7 strategies themselves, the most common ways that the top advisors on our system are actively getting new leads, filling their pipeline, finding and building new relationships to do business with. And then finally, if time permits, we're going to talk a little bit about how to turn leads and prospects into that first appointment. Now, we've got a lot to cover today, so we may have to save that last for another webinar. But there is more information about that in the guidebook as well that I mentioned. So we'll get to that if time permits. So with that in mind, let's dive right into this topic. And first of all, let's talk about what is prospecting. Stephanie mentioned that we've been around for decades here at Bill Good Marketing. And one of the first things that Bill Good himself discovered a long, long time ago was that many, if not most, of your new clients will come from people that you have been in contact with for some time and who have come to feel comfortable with you. You know, as you know, there are lots of different ways to grow your business. Sometimes people will walk in off the street. Occasionally, you'll get someone who finds your website on a Google search and they call you. But if you're like most advisors, most of your business is going to come from people that you already have a relationship with in some form or fashion. And naturally, the more relationships you have, the more business you are likely to get. So, based on that truth and the truth that Bill has discovered, we can define prospecting as all of the activities, the active steps you can take to find, meet, and form relationships with people you don't know whom you want to do business with. So, based on that definition, prospecting is not handing out business cards, to people at a trade show or a fair or what have you. It's not buying a billboard or a 30-second radio ad. It's not just posting things on LinkedIn or Facebook. It's not positioning yourself as a thought leader. Those are all good and worthy activities that are well worth your time, and they do help grow your business unquestionably, but they're not prospecting. And the reason why is because prospecting is an active thing. Think of the original prospectors, the gold seekers of the 19th century. The most successful ones didn't just stick a pan into any old body of water that they found and then wait, hoping for gold. They didn't just find a random spot in the countryside and start digging. The most successful ones combed the countryside, methodically searching for signs that might indicate gold. And when they found a site worth exploring, they left no stone unturned in their search for something that glittered. Now, fortunately for you, prospecting for financial advisors isn't nearly so laborious or time consuming. But that said, it still remains an active and not a passive activity. It requires knowing where to look, it requires knowing what to look for, and it requires knowing what to do and what to say when you find a prospect. In short, it requires a strategy, and we're going to talk about those strategies today.
Now, Matt, I want to emphasize a point that you made on the prior items.
Mhm.
All of those activities, advertising, social media, and even becoming a thought leader, those are effective activities to an end. But the objective of those is really to create more brand awareness. And what I've seen is the best outcome from most of those activities on a consistent basis is that they are increasing the results of all of these other kind of activities that you're listing here as the prospecting strategies. These produce predictable outcomes, whereas the others are supplements that help you get even better outcomes from the more active initiatives.
Yeah, that's a terrific point. And it's a good thing worth remembering when you are doing something or when you're allocating part of your marketing budget to something that you're going to hope helps you grow and bring in new prospects, ask yourself, one, is it active or is it passive? And two, is this actively helping me find new people, new faces, new names, uh, new relationships to form, or is it more about increasing that brand awareness that Stephanie's talking about? I think that's a really good way to examine and test what you're doing and whether it fits under the category of prospecting or not, and how much time you're actually devoting to prospecting. So, with that said, let's talk about the actual prospecting strategies we want to dive into today. Here at Bill Good Marketing, we work with hundreds and hundreds of advisors all over the US and Canada. And when we look at the most successful advisors on our system, meaning either they're the largest in terms of assets under management or revenue, or they're the ones who are growing at the fastest rate, they're all pretty much to a T excelling with at least one of these strategies. Now, don't get me wrong, they're doing other things too. Their client marketing is incredible. Their practice management is top notch. They're doing so many things that contribute to growth, but they're also doing one or more active prospecting strategies, sometimes two or three. We know advisors who are bringing in anywhere from 25 to 75 million a year just from referrals and introductions. 50 million a year from their social connections, 35 million a year from seminars. I'm just giving numbers now, but these are all things that we see every month here at Bill Good Marketing. So what we're going to do is we're going to help you choose which strategy is best for you to pursue, and then talk about some of the basic ways to get started with it or maximize it if you're already doing it. Because with these strategies, not all of them are right for all advisors. Some strategies may simply not make sense for you. It would likely be a waste of your time and money. You might be in the wrong market. You might not have the right team for it. Maybe it's just not a fit for your personality. There are lots of different ways or reasons why a strategy might be perfect for you or might be wrong for you. And we're going to talk about how to decide which is right for you and which isn't. So let's talk about these strategies. As you can see, we're going to talk today about referrals, cloning or getting introductions, strategic partnerships, social connections, webinars, seminars, cold calling, and then digital marketing you see on here. It's one of the, well, it's an important prospecting strategy, but it's the one that we're not going to get into today for a few different reasons. Steph, I know you have some thoughts about why we're going to leave that to one side for right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first seven, we have seen consistent, predictable outcomes in every market. We've had advisors test all over the US, Canada, even Puerto Rico, and we know what outcomes you can expect from each of these. That is important in planning, making sure you have predictable outcomes that you can expect to achieve. Now, digital marketing, it's new enough that we have many strategies that we've been testing for years, a few years now, but I have yet to see one strategy that will get predictable outcomes in every market.
Mhm.
So it is a great activity for PR, and I see when it is included, the outcomes from the other strategies being more effective or higher returns, but I would not rely on it as a standalone strategy. And that's the main reason. Now, if you are interested in learning more about digital marketing, at the end of this, we'll have a survey. Make sure you indicate interest in that because we do have a question asking about what kind of webinars you'd like for the future.
Now, you probably noticed that some of these are in different colors. You may notice how some of the channels are in blue, some of them are in gray. And that's because these channels can be broken into those two basic styles that I mentioned, relationship marketing and mass marketing. Now, you'll notice that the fifth channel or fifth strategy, webinars, is in dark blue because that's actually a blend of relationship marketing and mass marketing. And we'll get to that more in just a few minutes. So, what are these two different styles? Well, relationship marketing essentially means that you are leveraging your existing relationships with people that you already know to form new relationships with people that you don't. In most cases, you'll be using your existing clients to find new prospects, finding out who are their friends, family, professionals, people that they associate with that you'd like to do business with. But you can also leverage people that you know socially outside of work. We'll get to that in a minute as well. Now, mass marketing is the opposite. Traditionally, mass marketing involves building a list of people who look like they may be good prospects. And I'm obviously referring to demographics here when I say look, and then reaching out to them to offer something of value in order to start a conversation and build a relationship from scratch. So, which of these styles should you use? Well, obviously, all advisors should use relationship marketing. I can't think of a single reason why you wouldn't try to leverage your existing relationships unless everyone you know is a jerk or you're new to an area and you don't know anyone yet. Otherwise, you're going to want to leverage existing relationships to find new prospects. This is true even if you don't have many clients or you worry about coming across as solicitous to people you know. And we'll explain how to get around that in just a minute as well. Mass marketing is a little more optional, but we still highly recommend it. How to know whether mass marketing is for you? Well, if your existing relationships aren't generating enough new business for you on a consistent basis, or if you want to crack into a new niche and you don't have the existing connections to do so, mass marketing can be a big help there. Quite frankly, though, for advisors who are really looking to put their foot on the gas pedal and accelerate their growth, a blend of both styles is often necessary and preferable. But regardless, you can see how these different strategies, how they're both similar and different from each other by looking at it in terms of these two distinct styles.
And Matt, before we jump into the next area, I'd love to hear from all the attendees. If you can, just take a quick moment, jump in the chat, and let us know what strategies are you most interested in leveraging in 2024. I'd love to see what's on top of mind for you, and we can emphasize those areas a bit more as well. So please
Or
take a jump in.
which ones you've been using to this point that have worked for you. It's always good to know what's working now.
Mhm.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Thank
let's get into each of these strategies one by one. We'll start off with referrals, um, or what we call referral marketing. Now, referral marketing is simple. It's the process of getting your clients to tell their friends and family about you, and telling you about their friends and family. Uh, it's also the process of letting your clients know that you value and accept referrals, and for creating the kind of relationship that would lead people to want to refer others to you. Now, everybody wants referrals, obviously, and you can often get them by simply providing sound advice, and high quality service. But again, there are active steps that you can take specifically designed to plant the idea of giving a referral in your clients' minds. And that's what we mean when we talk about referral marketing. Now, how do you know whether this is a strategy that you really want to be allocating more time and effort into versus just waiting for referrals to come to you because they will? Well, if you have a great relationship with your current clients and you want more people just like them, referral marketing is obviously a no-brainer. It's also a good idea for advisors who are uncomfortable being out in public, meeting people they don't know. Not all advisors are extroverts. Some don't want to be, putting themselves out there in social situations that they're not used to. So referral marketing, actively trying to get more referrals as opposed to passively waiting for them, can be a really good activity for you. And if you want to grow, but consistently rather than aggressively, referral marketing is probably the ultimate tool in terms of consistent gradual growth. Now, on the other hand, it might not be for you if you don't really like your current clients. Not all advisors do. Or if you've only done the bare minimum for them. You may be someone who most of your clients are inherited, or you bought them, when you purchased another advisor's book of business, and you don't know them well enough yet to try and be getting referrals. And right now, the name of the game is deepening relationships and solidifying your business with them. And of course, if you're a new advisor, just getting started, or if you're new to an area and you don't have many or any clients yet, then referral marketing obviously is not something you want to be spending your time on. There are other strategies for you. But assuming you do want to spend more time on referral marketing, let's talk about three of the core best practices that will get you started. Now, again, just to reiterate, with each of these best practices that we're going to talk about today, we're not going to go too in depth because of time. The guidebook that I mentioned will provide more information. And then Paige, who is one of our administrative people here at Bill Good Marketing, will periodically be dropping links to other webinars and other resources that go into greater detail about each of these best practices. And you can look for that in the chat. Okay, so with these best practices, the first one, promote referrals, don't ask for them. I mentioned that referral marketing is the process of letting clients know that you value and accept referrals. Well, here's what referral marketing isn't. It's not asking for referrals. Asking for referrals does not work. At best, your clients will just give you a name just to get you off their back. But a name, even if they give you one, your client may likely feel uncomfortable or even upset that you asked them, that they felt pressured to give you a name. It puts them on the spot. When the whole point of your relationship is for you to help them, not the reverse. So that's why you should promote referrals instead. So, what's the difference between promoting and asking? Well, it goes like this. Asking is, who do you know that might need financial advice? Whereas promoting is more like this. By the way, if you ever know anyone who needs help with their finances, the way that my team and I help you, please don't hesitate to let me know. We love working with more people just like you. Something as simple as that is promoting referrals. It's a lot more pleasant than asking, and if done gently and done consistently in a variety of ways, it is so much more effective at planting that seed in the client's mind that, oh, I should send my sister to you. Oh, my coworker just talked about how their investments are tanking. They should talk to you, and so on and so forth. So that's best practice number one: promote, don't ask. Now, there are many different ways to promote referrals. That leads to the second best practice: promote referrals over the phone and in person using rehearsed referral conversations. There are many different situations where you can promote a referral during a client review, when you're calling your client to check in on them and see how things are going, when you've done some great active service for your client. Um, and if you rehearse what to say in those various situations, and you have in your mind already, I know exactly how I want to use this situation to leverage it to promote a referral, that's going to be so effective at creating that kind of referral consciousness that we're talking about. In the guidebook that I mentioned, it has a number of examples of referral conversations that you can use, rewrite, customize for your own use. But thinking in advance and rehearsing these conversations in your mind is very effective at getting more referrals. Another effective best practice for getting more referrals is to send a laminated business card to all of your clients, excuse me, along with 2 to 3 regular business cards. Steph, I'm going to ask you to get into this a little bit so I can take a sip of water and get my voice back.
Absolutely. So the laminated business cards are great because it helps solve the problem of having your contact information on your client's person. A couple of the reasons that clients have stated that they did not refer, even though they were extremely satisfied with an advisor's service, is that one, they didn't know the advisor was accepting referrals. So promoting helps create that top of mind awareness and makes them very aware that you are currently accepting new clients and you'd be happy to help their loved ones. But giving them the contact information makes sure that they can't have the other excuse, which is, oh, yeah, I told my friend about you or I told my neighbor, but they didn't have your contact information with them when they were talking to their friend or neighbor. Laminated business card is a great way to go about it because it's going to have more life to that business card. It's not going to get the edges creased and folded and start to look dirty and dingy, and then they throw it away when they clean out their wallet. Another kind of outside the box solution that I really love leveraging technology a bit more. I mean, most, if not all of your clients have a cell phone on them and one that can scan a QR code. So one way we've been recently working to get contact information on your clients is have a QR code set up at your front desk where your clients can scan that and it uploads your contact information to their cell phone. So now they have their cell phone on them almost all the time. They're never going to have that reason to not provide a referral.
Thanks, Steph. I love that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, interestingly, of the feedback that we received, at least 75% of everyone listed is getting good results from referral marketing. And that's a part of the strategy for this year. So I think that referral marketing is an important thing. It needs to continue to be. That's the first area I would leverage. And if you're looking for how you can optimize this, we've talked about a few core best practices here. We have a strategy that outlines 12 different best practices. You can work on a couple each month, or actually not 12, it's 24 tasks that you complete over a 12-month period. It's a 12-month referral strategy to make sure you're getting the target number. But that target number you should be shooting for is at least 15 to 24% of your clients referring at least one person a year. So when you're looking at what you have received over the last year and you're making projections for the coming year, if you're not hitting that target and there's a referral gap, let me know and I'd love to help you debug it and look for additional strategies that will help you make sure you're getting that outcome.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like Stephanie said, there are so many different ways that's included in that strategy to promote and generate more referrals. But again, if you're just starting out thinking about this in terms of promoting versus asking, referral conversations, the laminated business card, and what Stephanie mentioned about the QR code and the sign in your office, that alone is going to, in all likelihood, dramatically increase the number of referrals that you get on a consistent basis. Okay, the next one. This is actually my favorite strategy. I almost wanted to save it for last, but it makes sense to do this next. This is what Bill calls cloning. Now, to clone something means to create identical copies. In this channel, you are trying to make copies of your best clients. In practice, this usually leads to, or this usually means getting introductions to people that your clients know. Now, introductions are similar to, but distinct from a referral. Referral is when a client tells you about someone they know or tells that someone they know about you. An introduction, on the other hand, is when a client physically introduces you to that person. So if a client, if your client Bob says, you should talk to my brother Frank, that's a referral. If he says, you should meet, here's my brother Frank, Frank, meet my financial advisor, meet Frank, that's an introduction. An introduction isn't necessarily better than a referral, but sometimes it's a faster, more direct path to forming a new relationship because right off the bat, that introduction can see who you are, both as a person and a professional, and why their friend or loved one or what have you would want to work with you. Think of it as a form of networking. Many of the top advisors that we work with devote almost all their marketing resources on cloning and getting introductions because they reason correctly that the most valuable prospects out there are the people they already have a connection with through their clients. Now, getting introductions, I don't know if it's for you or not. If it's for you, again, if you have a great relationship with your current clients and want more people just like them. It's also for you if you don't mind spending money upfront to meet a large number of people in a short period of time. Now, the reason for this is that one of the best ways to get introductions is through events, client appreciation and education events. These are great fun and very effective, but they can be a little costly on the front end.
Yeah, Matt, on that, that is a great way to meet a lot of people. And if you think that all the other reasons that this could be for you are a fit, but you're hesitant on this strategy because of the upfront cost, I'd urge you to really consider this strategy because you can do it in lower cost ways. Having strategic partners help with some of the costs, wholesalers, or even doing really small targeted events with just your top tier clients. Taking one client and a couple of their friends out to a concert or out to wine tasting or a scotch night. It doesn't have to be a huge elaborate thing, although that is an effective way to go with events as well. I just want to make sure that the cost doesn't become the main reason not to do it because if you have a lot of clients that you'd like to get to know their loved ones and other professionals they're working with, this really is a great strategy for you.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. That's a great point. Uh, yeah, and then on that end, or on that note, the final reason why this may be a good strategy for you is if you're someone who's naturally outgoing, extroverted, warm, frankly, even playful, getting introductions, doing client events to get them is going to be right in your wheelhouse. In other words, I like to think of it this way. If you're someone who is comfortable with the idea of your clients seeing you in a Hawaiian shirt or a pair of flip-flops or anything like that, or even with a beer in your hand, then client events and getting introductions are probably going to be right for you. The reason why I mention that is because some of the best people we know at getting introductions, they tend to do it in a Hawaiian shirt or with flip-flops on. So if that's you, give this a try if you haven't already. Now, it might not be for you if you simply hate the idea of hosting events or you don't want to spend money on it. Like Stephanie said, there are real ways to make this far more cost effective. And you should explore those ways before you make a decision. But it has to be admitted that there are other ways to prospect that may involve less upfront cost. Or again, if you're just not someone who likes being in, those kinds of social settings, then it's probably not for you. Or if you prefer to conduct business in a strictly formal manner, which a lot of advisors do quite reasonably, again, this may not be the right thing for you. Um, or if after having completed relationship mapping, which we're going to talk about in a second, if you decided your clients simply aren't well connected enough, they don't know people that you really want to do business with, then cloning might not be the channel that you want to spend your marketing dollars and your marketing time on. So, a couple different best practices for getting introductions and cloning your clients. Um, the first one, and I would argue the single most important one, is to first of all map out your client relationships to find out who your clients know that you want to know. We call this relationship mapping, the process of discovering and recording the names of people and organizations that your clients know and associate with so that you can meet them in a setting appropriate to that relationship. Relationship mapping is a vast topic. We could spend a whole webinar on that alone. But when we talk about mapping out your client relationships, we mean trying to find out who your clients' parents are, who their children or other beneficiaries are, who are their siblings, who are their friends and fellow hobby enthusiasts. If you have a client who loves to golf or loves to fish, who do they do that with on a regular basis? That's somebody you'd want to know and probably want to do business with. And then, of course, other professionals that they're working with. So before you do anything else with cloning, do your relationship mapping. Find out who your clients know that you want to know. Make that list. Create that web that you can see, because those are the people that you're going to invite to the events that Stephanie mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've ever ran into the issue or you quit hosting events because you'd have clients come, but they would never bring guests, this is likely the main cause of that. It's much easier to call Jimmy Bob and invite him to go trap shooting with his brother Joe than to call Jimmy Bob and say, hey, bring anybody along that you think might enjoy this. If you have a specific name and you know they share a common passion or interest, it's much easier to get them to come. So that planning is crucial.
Exactly. Now, if you've never done a client event before, or if you have, and for whatever reason didn't work out the way you wanted it to, my advice is for the next client event or the first client event that you do a retirement party. Take a client who's retiring that you've done your relationship mapping with. Contact the people that you know that they know that you want to know. Again, their siblings, their children, the people that they love doing their hobbies with, and let them. Hey, I'm throwing a retirement party for John or for Betty next month. It's going to be a great time. We're going to celebrate the fact they're entering their golden years and finally going to take that cruise they dreamed of. I'd love for you to come and celebrate with us. I know they'd love to come too. Chances are they're going to take you up on that offer, which means that very soon you're going to have an event where you've got a client who's feeling great because he or she's being recognized, and you've got a front row seat to meet the people that we just talked about in a setting that's going to make you look really, really good. So, in my opinion, a retirement party is a really easy, really fun, and really effective first event to do if you're just getting started with this.
Absolutely.
Now, Stephanie mentioned something really smart a second ago, in terms of reducing the cost of cloning and of client events. And one of those ways, like she mentioned, is holding targeted small group events based on your clients' hobbies and interests. Again, if you have 3 or 4 clients who love to garden, invite them all in together and you bring in a horticulturist as a guest speaker and encourage them to bring their friends who also like gardening in. If you have 3 or 4 clients who love rifles, or they love shooting, go to a client event at a local gun range. Invite them to bring their friend along who they always go shoot with. Things of that nature. When you do these kinds of small, intimate events that are based around something that your client loves to do and loves to do with others, that's a terrific way to clone them. And again, it tends to be not very pricey at all. We know many advisors who are doing this they do this on a regular basis, and it's an extremely affordable and cost-effective option. Would you agree, Stephanie?
Yeah, absolutely. And, with all of these strategies, it's important. Cloning is a great strategy. One of the best ways to make sure that it results in new assets and new clients is to make sure you have a chance to deepen the relationship personally with all the attendees. And the small targeted events helps you have a better opportunity to do that. Whatever the activity, even if you're renting out a movie theater, make sure you have time before and or after to have a conversation with all of the people who attend, because that is where you're building that relationship that's going to deepen trust and forward the sales cycle, whatever part of the cycle the person is in, right? And this isn't just for building your business. It's not just for bringing in new clients and new assets. It deepens engagement with your existing clients too. So it helps you win on many levels. But to make sure that it does result in new business, you have to have enough time to have conversations with everybody there. And the small events helps you do that.
Yeah, great point. Okay, next up is strategic partnerships. Before we go any further, Steph, any questions or comments we need to address?
There are not any questions yet. However, well, all of them we've addressed, but interestingly, about the feedback of everyone who has shared the strategies they're looking at, most interested in, or what's working, it's all relationship marketing so far. I'm really curious if anyone is doing seminars, planning to do seminars, has been testing cold calling, looking forward to doing cold calling this year. Those strategies really work. I'm curious if anybody is going to be jumping in on that. But relationship marketing is my favorite, so I completely understand why that's top of mind for everyone. And it is lower cost and really great ROI compared to seminars as well. So interesting feedback. Thank you for sharing.
Great. So let's go into another relationship marketing channel. I think in some ways that this one has the highest ceiling for growth of any of them, and it's building strategic partnerships. We define a strategic partner as as two non-competitive professionals who are united for the benefit of their mutual clients, who also refer to each other. The first part is really important. United for the benefit of their mutual client. I'm going to get why that is in just a second. But first, I want to mention something about the first part of that definition: a genuine strategic partnership. I say the word genuine because there are two truths about strategic partners. The first is that strategic partners are an incredibly valuable source for high quality referrals. Many of the top advisors on our system bring in tens of millions in new assets every year from their partnerships alone. That's because, when a person's CPA or their estate attorney or what have you says to a client, I hear that such and such financial advisor does great work and they've really helped my other client. I'd like to put you in touch with them. That carries a ton of weight. And you could bet that's going to lead to a new client relationship. But the second truth is that genuine strategic partnerships, and Stephanie, I'd be curious to get your take on this, are surprisingly rare. In our experience, most strategic partnerships aren't actually partnerships at all, but rather what Bill likes to call strategic one-way streets, meaning all the referrals flow one direction but not the other, usually from you but not towards you. Would you agree with that stuff?
Yeah, and it especially in the two most common professions that advisors are looking for strategic partners in, which is CPAs and attorneys. So with CPAs, there's actually a study that shows there's only about 10% of CPAs that will refer to an advisor. They admittedly stated that. Anecdotally, I've seen about the same with estate planning attorneys as well. And we need to make sure you find that 10% that will, because they are out there. But I think a lot of advisors have gotten burned on the strategic partner strategy because they've had those experiences with the 90% of CPAs and estate attorneys that won't refer. Um, that would be those one-way streets, right? So having the right strategy is crucial to making this successful. But when you do, strategic partnerships are good for even just 6 to 8 solid partnerships established,
Mhm.
usually are resulting in about 20 to 30 million in new assets a year from referrals from those professionals. It's a phenomenal growth strategy.
Yeah. So with that in mind, with the idea that strategic partnerships are a high ceiling, but a little bit of a low floor kind of strategy. How do you know if it's for you? Well, if you are a relationship oriented person rather than a transaction oriented person, they tend to be for you because, again, these partnerships are designed to be for the benefit of your mutual clients. Also, if you're a patient prospector, developing strategic partnerships takes time. Rome wasn't built today, and neither was a good strategic partner network.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who's patient and willing to, and devote a lot of time to this and not, just move on to something else after a few weeks or a few months, strategic partnerships are probably for you. And if you're shooting for fewer clients in total, but you're shooting more for those higher net worth or even ultra high net worth types of clients, strategic partnerships can be a great way to do that. As Stephanie sort of alluded to, however, they may not be for you if cost is an issue, or sorry, not if cost is an issue, but if time is an issue. If you want to grow quickly, and if you need to fill up your pipeline with a high volume of prospects, then it may be good to do other strategies first and then come back to strategic partnerships later. Also, if you're still trying to find yourself as a financial advisor, this may not be the one you want to devote to first. And that's because strategic partnerships tend to work best for advisors who have mature practices, very established, solidified brands, a strong practice management structure, things of that nature. Because when professionals refer clients, they want to know that the advisor they're referring to has the experience, the infrastructure, the style, the philosophy, et cetera, in order to help their client. So if you're just getting started, this again may be one that you might want to file away for later, or at least consider whether it's the right thing to do now or later. Okay, so a couple best practices for strategic partners. First of all, make a list of professionals your clients already work with. This is similar to the relationship mapping concept we talked about before. You want to find out who are your clients' CPAs, who are their estate planning attorneys, their regular attorneys, their real estate agents, their insurance agents. They're all kinds of professionals. I know one advisor who has created strategic partnerships with his clients' travel agents. So there's lots of different ways that you can approach this, but make a list of the valued professionals that your clients are already working with and love to work with. That's where you want to start. The second best practice is once you've made that list and you've found other professionals that seem like they may be someone you want to add to your team, set up that initial meeting through like a lunch appointment with each potential strategic partner, again, to discuss your mutual clients. You're not talking about referring business yet. Right now, you're talking about what can you and the other professional do to provide even higher quality service to your mutual client and to be able to better solve your client's issues and problems. Strategic partnerships that are founded on that basis, in our experience, tend to last longer and be far more fruitful than ones that are solely about trying to refer business to each other. Would you agree with that stuff?
Absolutely.
And then finally, the last best practice on this is once that first meeting is done, if it went the way you wanted it to, set up a second meeting to formally discuss that strategic partnership. That meeting should be in your office. That's when you actually bring up, I refer people to you, you refer people to me. But actually codify what you want this partnership to look like. A lot of those strategic one-way streets that we see tend to founder because that relationship wasn't defined, wasn't codified at the onset. And as a result, there are different ideas from both parties about what's expected of them and why you have a relationship in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite outcomes of that second meeting as well is that when you have them come to your office, they can go through your process. You should go to their office and go through their process too. It's a part of vetting the professional and knowing that there's someone you really would trust to refer your clients to. But when you go through that process, you intimately understand what they do and the unique value they offer, and they understand your unique value. And that oftentimes can earn you a new client. And when a strategic partner is also a client, they're far more likely to refer because if they trust you enough to manage their wealth, then they're going to trust you enough to refer clients as well, right? So I think that's one of the best outcomes from that third step there.
Right. Okay. I'd love to spend more time on each one of these, but I'm conscious of the clock. So we're going to keep moving along. This next one is another one I also really like. It's one you see a lot among advisors who are on the Bill Good Marketing system, but don't see very much outside of it. This is working and developing with your social connections. Now, a social connection is someone that you know by name and who knows you, but does not necessarily know or think of you as a financial advisor. Additionally, a connection must be someone that you actually want to do business with, but you would feel uncomfortable soliciting their business directly. Think your neighbor. Think about the couple who always sits behind you in church, fellow members of your local PTA. You get the idea. People that you know on a social level. Now, you can't solicit business directly with these people. That's a major social taboo. But what you can do is gradually and over time develop your connections into full blown prospects by maintaining what we call top of mind awareness with them. If you keep your name in front of them, if you gradually educate them on what you do, what kind of professional you are, and maybe even every once in a while invite them to a client event, over time, that gets them thinking of you as a financial advisor. Um, I'm going to explain a little bit more about that in just a second, but first let's talk about how do you know whether this is for you? Well, if you have existing high net worth connections that you love to turn into clients, obviously that's a no brainer. If you're a well connected member of the community, meaning you're involved in a lot of different organizations, charitable activities, community events, that's prime ground for developing social connections. And if you're looking for a low stress, low effort way to gradually increase your prospects over time, that's also a really good way to grow your business. And I'm going to explain why that is in just a second. On the other hand, this might not be for you if you're new to the area and or you don't really know many people outside of work. It also might not be for you if you feel extremely uncomfortable prospecting to people you know socially, even if it's done in a very low key and gradual manner. Or if you need to get lots of prospects now and don't have the patience or the time to wait a year or two for your efforts to bear fruit, again, probably other strategies are best for you.
To
Um,
help you with
yeah,
quantifying that as well, if you have at least 20 connections that are potential ideal clients, you would love to do business with them, but they don't know you first and foremost as a financial advisor, I'd consider this strategy. If you have 50 or more social connections and you're actively involved in the community, you should have this running, even if it's going to take a year or two to get the ideal results, because the time invested now will be well worth it down the road. I'd expect at least 10 to 30 million in new assets a year if you have 50 connections and you consistently work at growing that list and you run this campaign, you're committed to it for the long haul. 10 to 30 million in new assets a year, depending on your number of connections. And I can help you calculate your exact numbers and what to project from this. If you're interested in a growth potential analysis, let us know at the end. But if you have those numbers, definitely consider this strategy.
right. Now, how does the strategy work? Well, the first step is to build a list of people you know that you like to do business with. Again, think about the organizations you belong to, people in Rotary, your church, your chess club, whatever. Um, I know one advisor who most of his connections that turn to clients are fellow parents of his kid's soccer team. So again, lots of different areas. Make that list, even if it's just 20 names to start with of people you want to do business with. Now comes the heart of the strategy. This is what we teach clients or advisors who are on the Bill Good Marketing system. Begin building top of mind awareness with your connections by sending a physical printed, so low key, we call it no key letter every single month. Now, let me explain really quick the genesis of this best practice. We discovered this about 23 years ago with an advisor named Dick Wilson. Dick created a list of his connections, and every month he would send a letter to each of his connections. It was never solicitous, never promoted business. It was always, the letters were always on heartwarming, human interest type stories that he thought would make his connections feel good or feel inspired. Or they'd be letters that provided basic education on general financial topics or questions that his connections were likely to have. And by sending these physical letters, which his connections would always open because they recognized the name Dick Wilson, they knew Dick. And so, of course, they're going to open a letter from him. That put his name front and center of their eyes every single month. It also gradually trained his connections to associate him with heartwarming feelings, with feeling inspired, with feeling motivated, with feeling confident, and associated him with financial expertise. So when the time came that any of his connections needed financial advice, Dick's name was always the first name that they thought of. And as a result, Dick was able to bring in 50 million in new assets just from his connections alone within 2 years. I think that's right, Stephanie, within 2 years of starting this.
So yeah, his initial list of connections was about 76, and over a 5-year period, he brought in 50 million from them, but he built his total list up to over 270, and in that same time frame, he brought in 150 million total. And this was the early 90s. So imagine what that would be now, right? That's where we've seen. I just had another advisor I heard of last week on our system running this, and he just brought in 20 million last year from his connections. So the range we see is usually 10 to 30, and that's been consistent since Dick first pioneered this campaign.
Right. And here at Bill Good Marketing, we provide all the letters that financial advisors would need to be able to send to their connections every single month.
And they are some of the best letters in our content library. They're phenomenal.
And finally, the third best practice for this is, for connections who've been receiving your letters for some time, every so often invite select number of them to come to a client event, so they can actually see who you are and what you do as a financial advisor. They can interact with your clients and learn how you've helped them achieve their financial goals. That tends to be the tipping point that turns the connection into a full-blown hot prospect who says, I want to sit down and actually talk about you creating a financial plan for me or managing my assets or what have you.
Yeah.
But this is a wonderful strategy. Again, it's low cost, it's low pressure, it's not a ton of work, but it can be very, very fruitful.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, John has a question. He
Yeah.
said, no key. What is this? So, no key, Bill has always said low key is low pressure. So, no key is no pressure. How do you equate that in a letter, Matt?
Mainly through what I was saying before, where so many of the letters that people who are marketing to their connections do, they're not related to finance at all. They're related to heartwarming human interest stories. They're related to holidays, things of that nature. So there's absolutely nothing to do with business. So again, so low key, it's no key. And again, over time, those kinds of letters, those kinds of messages make people feel really positive and warm about you. Now, you can also do a very similar effect with financial related letters. You just want to make sure two things. One, that the letters are on topics that connections are likely to be thinking about. What are questions that they tend to have about investing or about retirement planning, but maybe they're too afraid to ask? What are topics that they know they need to, start learning about at some point, but they can't find the time. And then lo and behold, they get a letter that talks about it. And then the second thing is there's never a call to action in those kinds of letters. It's just information. Over time, people begin to associate you as a financial expert. So if they wake up and one day and they decide, you know what, I need to find a financial advisor, your name will be the first one that pops into their mind. So that's what we mean by no key. And that's how we accomplish that through letters.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. And thanks for the question, John.
Absolutely. Great question. Okay, now we're moving into the mass marketing area, and we're going to start with seminars. Everyone knows about seminars. Advisors have been doing them since time immemorial. The good news with seminars is they still absolutely work. They tend to be one of the best ways to grow your business if you're looking to do so aggressively. That's because really there's no other way, or there's no better way to put you in front of more potential prospects in a shorter amount of time. We've worked with scores of advisors with practices anywhere from 500 million to 2 billion who largely built their business and continue to do so through seminars. It's just a terrific way to get in front of people. So how do you know if seminars for you? Well, if you're looking to grow fast and you don't mind spending money to do it, then seminars are probably the single best option for you to do. If you love public speaking and are comfortable being in front of people, or if you have a very specific area of expertise or some other kind of niche that you're targeting or want to break into, if you already have a really good, strong team in place that can help you manage seminars, And if you're someone who loves to embrace, consistent, repeatable processes that are going to bring predictable results, like Stephanie mentioned at the top of this webinar, seminars tend to be a really good strategy for you.
Mhm.
Now, they might not be for you if you simply don't have the money right now or the team right now to invest in making seminars work, because there's no getting around it. Seminars are one of the most costly ways to prospect. So, you have to keep that in mind. Um, the ROI can be very, very significant, but there are upfront costs. Um, Also, they're not for you if you're unwilling to commit to seminars. Seminars are not something where you try it once or twice. Oh, it didn't work. Now I'm done and I move on. With seminars, you have to be willing to commit to testing and tweaking to find the best topic, the best location, the best invitation, the best list. And that takes a bit of time. Some people, it might, after two or three times, they might find that winning formula. Others, it might take a little bit more time, but you have to be willing to commit to it. It's a science, and
Mm.
that science requires experimentation. Finally, if you simply hate public speaking, you don't have to be a good public speaker to succeed at seminars. Some of the top seminar producers we know would not describe themselves as, uh, you know, great orators, but you have to know your material cold. You have to be an expert. You have to be authoritative. But if you're someone who's simply uncomfortable with the idea of speaking in front of a large group of people, um, probably seminars are not something you want to do. Or you may want to work on that before you commit to embracing seminars. Now, how to make seminars work for you. First of all, choose a topic that both inspires and alarms. When you're giving a seminar on a financial topic, the aim is not to educate people enough that they know how to do something. It's to educate them to the point they know that they need to do something, either because they're inspired and motivated out of something they want, or out of fear to avoid an outcome they don't want. So, some certain topics that can help with that. Social Security is a really good one. Avoiding common retirement mistakes, how to save more on taxes in retirement. These are the kinds of topics that you're not teaching them how to do everything. You're just teaching them enough to know, well, there are certain mistakes I have to avoid, or there are certain things I know I'm going to have to do to maximize my Social Security benefits. I need to work with this advisor to make sure I do them. Choosing the right topic is key.
On the topic note, a couple of advisors are always asking what topics are working right now. So I want to add a couple of thoughts there. One, always tax saving strategies is of interest. Estate planning is usually a pretty hot topic. Retirement income is definitely a big topic right now. And I would add a caveat to any of those topics before you choose. Decide something you are really passionate about, because your passion, your enthusiasm, your excitement is going to come through in the presentation. If it's something that you're just droning on about because it's what you've heard is working, that's going to be worse than picking a topic that may not be the most popular, but it's something you're really passionate about, because you'll actually engage the audience and get them to convert.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, equally important with topic is location. Um, Choosing the right seminar location can frankly make or break your seminar. Now, you're going to find advisors who can do a great seminar presentation and earn business doing it out of a cardboard box. But if you've never done it before, or if you've done it and it hasn't really worked, what we recommend is that you choose a high quality restaurant, not a library, not a public school, not even a country club. It needs to be a place where people both want to go and feel welcome going. The best locations also tend to be within 15 minutes away at most of the majority of the people on your list that you're inviting. It should be a quiet and well lit place with a private room if possible. It's not going to be a successful presentation if you hear all kinds of conversation and banging of glasses and things like that in the background. And usually we recommend that you stick to the steak, chicken, salmon end of cuisine. Um, People tend to want to eat things that they're comfortable with, that they're familiar with, if they're going to come to a seminar. So avoiding more quote unquote ethnic food tends to lead better results when it comes to choosing a seminar location. Again, that's assuming a lot of things about your list. You may find, depending on your list or depending on who you are, that certain other types of cuisines or restaurants might work better for you. But all things being equal, we've seen on average the best results for restaurants that are serving the kind of steak, chicken, salmon kind of fare. So ask yourself when choosing a location, is it one, accessible? Is it two, desirable? And three, is it conducive to a good interactive presentation? And then the final best practice we recommend, if you're doing nothing else to make seminars work, is to use a report card. At the end of the event, have attendees fill out a report card so they can indicate whether they want to have an appointment with you. A lot of advisors make the mistake of finishing up the seminar and that's it. People go home and they never hear from the advisor again. The advisor never hears from them, even if some of the attendees may have wanted to meet. By giving them a report card, you're giving them a chance to indicate, yes, I want to hear more from you. Yes, I want to be able to sit down with you. It's a really simple, no-brainer step, but it yields very important results.
By the way, make sure to fill out our survey and you'll get the goodie bag items, right? It's a best practice on webinars too.
Absolutely.
Now, Matt, before we jump into the next topic,
Mhm.
Will is interested in social connections and he asks, how do you ask your social friends to get on your mailing list?
Yeah, that's a great point. There are a couple different ways. The most basic way is, people that if you know them well, you know where they live, and it's pretty easy to find their address through the white pages or through various tools on the internet, or you may just know. You don't need permission to start sending letters to them if they're no key, like we're talking about. And what you can do is from time to time ask them, "Hey, would you like to keep receiving my letters?" Chances are the answer is going to be yes. For those who you don't know their address and you don't really have a way of getting their address, um, oftentimes what we see is they're going to hear about the letters you're sending through the grapevine. So let's say, for example, that you are sending these letters to several people at your Rotary Club, and they're enjoying the letters. Next time you go to a Rotary event, one of them mentions to you, uh, man, I really loved your last letter. It really, moved me. Then someone else overhears, hey, why am I not getting these letters from you? Why can't I get them? Can you send them to me? You get their address from them that way, and you can build your list in a very organic manner. Stephanie, any other resources or recourses to get addresses for your social connections that might be slipping my memory?
I think you recapped it well, but in the sake of time, if you'd like to discuss or explore this strategy more, definitely just get a time on my calendar after this and we can go through it for you.
Great. Okay, webinars. Webinars can be both client events or they could be like virtual seminars. The beauty of webinars is they're much more low cost compared to seminars. They can be more convenient for prospects because they don't have to drive somewhere and spend a whole night on some kind of event. They just do it through their computer. And they can be very lucrative, just like seminars. However, it can be a bit more difficult to get people to come to webinars. So, there's two basic ways again to prospect through webinars. One, treat them as a client event. Invite well-connected clients to come hear you or a guest speaker that might, be there to speak about a hobby or interest that they have. And they can invite some of their friends to come in and join the webinar as well. That's a very popular strategy. Or again, use it as a virtual seminar. Again, this can be difficult because you'll probably have to accept a lower number of attendees, but the quality of attendee may go up because these are people who are genuinely interested in the topic you're presenting on, not just getting a free meal. Either way, webinars could be for you if you have a client base that's largely spread out rather than centralized. So doing big client events with everyone together might be difficult or impossible. And again, if you enjoy public speaking and want a low cost way to get in front of people, webinars can be a great option. They may not be for you if you're unwilling to commit to them. Again, like seminars, they require testing and tweaking, or if you're uncomfortable speaking in front of groups of people, or if you have a client base or a target audience who are maybe older and less tech savvy and thus uncomfortable with the idea of getting on a webinar. Although it should be said that even older retired people are more and more comfortable, especially in the age of COVID, with the idea of hopping on a Zoom call. So that's really not the barrier that it once used to be. Either way, a few best practices, and I'm going to go fast now because I know we're going over the hour. Um, With webinars, emphasize your pregame routine. Don't just show up, deliver the presentation, and then sign off. Spend some time talking with people, seeing who's on the call, getting to know them, asking them questions, pointing them out, inviting them to participate in some way. Make it very interactive. Along those lines, ditch the elaborate slideshow. People are there to hear you, not see slides. You want them seeing your face, not seeing a bunch of words on the screen. Know your material cold and use the time to deliver it in a very interactive and engaging way, conversing with people rather than lecturing them. And then finally, again, make it interactive. Anything you can do to ask people's opinions, ask questions, bring people into the conversation. It's no mystery why Stephanie's done such a great job today about inviting people to ask questions or to jump into the chat and tell us what you're doing and what's working for you. Anything you can do to make it more interactive is going to make it more likely to lead to more business for you on the back end. Finally, cold calling. Make no mistake, cold calling still works. It's certainly trickier than it used to be. But if you rigorously apply best practices to it, you can still have outstanding success with this channel. The reason it's still viable is because it remains one of the fastest, most direct ways to fill your pipeline with people who are qualified and interested right now. And unlike seminars, cold calling is relatively inexpensive. It can be a very good way to break into difficult niches like business owners or physicians. And if you're a young up and coming advisor, it can be perfect for you because you may have less of a marketing budget or less relationships to leverage in other areas. So if you need to fill your pipeline with leads before anything else, if you don't have much capital to spend on seminars or enough existing relationships to leverage, if you're just starting out, or if frankly you just love the idea of a numbers game, doing something relentlessly based on statistics, cold calling can be very, very effective for you. But it might not be for you if you hate being on the phone or if you have a short attention span, which a lot of people do. If you have poor phone skills and you're unwilling to work on them, or if you fear rejection, you will get rejection if you're cold calling. That's just part of the game because cold calling is about numbers. Or if you live in a very small market where there simply aren't enough people to make or companies to make a viable list to cold call, maybe you want to look elsewhere for a different strategy. A few of the best practices to succeed on cold calling: buy or develop a targeted list and hone your offer to it. This is what we call targeting or precision cold calling. The principle behind it is simple. If you try to sell everything to everybody, you probably won't sell to anybody. But if you can identify a specific market, make that market be your list, and then craft your offer to that list's specific needs, specific hopes, specific fears, you will become the dominant advisor for that market. So, for example, you make a list of local corporate executives of publicly traded companies. You call and you offer a free report on their company stock or their options. They're probably going to have questions about that. You make a list of local business owners who are over 60, who may be looking to sell their business and retire. You offer a guide on how to successfully transition their business. You have a huge employer in your area, a local hospital, local school system, a factory that has a ton of employees. You call and you offer those employees information on their pension benefits. The point is, you call specific people with specific needs, offering specific information of immediate value they can't get anywhere else. If you do that, you're more likely to find people who are interested in working with you or at least talking with you right now. The second best practice is to pick the cherries, not the pits. This is something that Bill came up with a long time ago, and it's one of the smartest things he ever discovered. With cold calling, don't try and waste your time taking people who are not interested and getting them interested. That's a pit. You want to find cherries, the people who are interested and qualified right now in whatever it is that you're offering. If you make a cold call, you make your offer, someone says, no, thank you. That's it. You say, thank you very much, hang up the phone, move on to the next name on your list. Finding that person who actually is interested enough to speak with you. If you do that, you're going to find the whole process to be, one, more effective, and two, a lot more pleasant, because you're not worrying about rejection or trying to change people's minds. You're just trying to find that interest right now. And then finally, treat cold calling as a numbers game and keep good stats. Most people, when they have success with cold calling, they are shooting for specific numbers: 40 to 60 dials per hour, 2 to 3 interested people per hour, that kind of a thing. When you keep statistics and you aim for specific numbers, you're going to find cold calling to be far more productive than if you cold call a few names one day and a lot more names another day, and it's all over the place. So apply these kinds of best practices to cold calling, and it can still be a very profitable channel for you.
Yeah. And since this all is a numbers game, if you're interested in your numbers, when you fill out the survey after this webinar, make sure to request a growth potential analysis, and I'll help you map out your exact numbers so you know which strategies are going to work best for you and what you could expect this year when implementing them.
Absolutely. Okay, whew, we covered a lot of ground today, didn't we? Um, I want to reiterate again, we're so grateful for you guys for spending this time with us. We know, we took an hour and change of your day, and we're so thankful that you were able to spend it with us. So to say thank you, we have a new guidebook. It's all about prospecting. It goes into more in depth on each of these strategies and others that we didn't cover today. And it also talks about how you can develop your prospects to the point they set that first appointment. Really recommend that you get this guidebook, read what's in it, apply whatever suits you or appeals to you out of it. To get it, all you got to do is fill out the report card that Stephanie mentioned. You can go to that report card by going to the link as you see on your screen or scanning the QR code. Take 60 seconds to fill out the report card, and that'll take you right to the guidebook, which you can use however you want to. Stephanie, before we close off, is there anything else that you wanted to mention or reiterate?
I really want to thank you again for your time. And if you're interested in learning more about ways that we may be able to help you implement these strategies faster and get the best practices results that I referenced, make sure to indicate that in the survey, or after I'll shoot you a quick email and you can schedule a time on my calendar. I'd be happy to chat about the strategies that will help you reach your goals in 2024.
Absolutely. The big takeaway for me is this: prospecting is an active thing. There are so many different ways to find people that you want to do business with, who want to do business with you. Choose one of these strategies, or take a strategy you're already doing and apply the best practices that we've talked about here today in order to maximize it, and really devote a bit more time, a bit more effort to the concept of prospecting in 2024. If you do that, slowly but surely, you are going to grow more and more and more. Your pipeline is going to fill more and more and more. And before long, you will be the dominant advisor in whatever niche or whatever market it is that you are seeking to dominate. Prospecting is the ultimate tool to do that. I hope you're able to gather and gain some useful insights and information on this webinar. We sure enjoyed delivering it to you. So again, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you again soon on our next webinar. And from everyone here at Bill Good Marketing, hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.